Let's develop a very simple converter application together, and we will call this application converter app or any other name. So I'll go to File, select New, then New Project, select Empty Project, then click on Next, then right here call it Converter App. We just want to use this, receive Kenya shillings and convert that to dollars. We're using Java, not Kotlin for now. I will leave everything else as is, then click on Finish. Right, it's building here. Okay, so this is the application. Sorry, I almost terminated it. So this is where we now need to build our code. So this application is still, Gradle is still building, putting everything that we need together. As it puts everything we need together, because once it's ready, before we even start writing any code, it's always good to test the application. So now that the build has finished, let's run this application. We are running the application. It will appear on my small screen here, the emulator. And once everything is fine, then we can now start adding in our code. It is not a good practice to start building before you first check whether your environment is okay. So once that is done, the next thing as a developer you need to be thinking about is what theme colors are you using for this application. In Android, we'll go to the resource folder and look for a file or the folder called values, then colors. Then we will define all the colors that we need there. So I know definitely I will need a color called white. So I'll define a color called white. Color, I'll call it white. White. I'll definitely use color white. Close that tag and provide the hex code for color white, and that is usually that. The other hex codes, you don't need to know them offhand, but with time you will realize they are not easy. I mean, they are not quite complex to remember, but you don't need to remember. I need color green. I don't know the hex code for color green. Therefore, I will go online and look for that. In the meantime, our emulator has completed loading our default application, and as we can see, everything is okay. So let me go online and look for hex code for color green, because that's what I want to use in my application. Well, I have a number of colors here. Let's use green or any other color. So I'll just copy this so I don't need to remember that color. Then I now go back to my application right here, and I can change the primary dark color here, and the primary color and the primary dark color, I can change them to that green. My emulator is here, it's working well, and now I even have colors. Now we have defined the colors. We have the colors, then we have proven, or rather confirmed, that our environment is working well and able to run the default application. Now, the next thing is the layout. How should our application look or appear? That is also what we call the business logic, which is what are the forms, how do they appear, what data can be collected or presented on those forms. So to come up with a currency converter, then we need first a label that tells that particular user, enter the amount here. So before we put in all those controls, we first must have what we call a container. So the default container, let me push this here. The default container is known as the constraint layout, and this could change depending on the version of Android. So I don't want to use constraint layout as my container. There are many other containers. I will start using linear layout. So I start typing linear, then select linear layout. That's the container that I want to use. I don't want this text view that was saying hello world. I'll come up with mine. So let's now start. We need a text view. We need a text view where the user will type enter the amount. So this text view can match parent. I just start typing match parent, sorry. I just start typing match parent here, meaning the size of it can fill the parent, and then the height here can wrap content. Wrap content means it should be the size of what we put inside it. Alright, then what text do we want to put here? So I write text, and the text will be enter amount in Kenya shillings. This is a very simple project to just convert Kenya shillings into dollars. Right, now let's go to design. Right here, look at what is happening. Yeah, we have enter amount in Kenya shillings. That's good. Let's go back to code here. Keep writing, setting up our layout. Now, the next thing we need is an edit text where somebody can now key in values. Edit text. Alright, this the width can match parent, the height can wrap content, and we can even specify the text size. So I write text, then look for size. Text size is measured in SP. I can close this tag. Alright, let me check my design. It's always good as you work, you check your design while it's coming up. Now I need a button which will be used to convert. So I open tag, then specify button. Button. The button should match parent. The button should match parent. Okay, the height can wrap content. And I can close this tag. On the button, I can provide the label, rather the message on the button. And I can write convert to dollars. Right. Let me look at my design. Wow. Everything seems to be on the same line here. So we need to fix that. And that is what we call orientation. It looks like our outer container does not have any orientation. So we need to set the orientation here to, we want these controls to follow each other in a vertical manner. So I'll use vertical. So now, if I go to design, yeah, that's what we are looking for. Enter this, this and this. Looks okay now. Now, I will have so much space left here. So this might not be a very good one. So I need to push these two to the middle, all of this to the center. So I need to go back to my code and right here, specify the gravity. Gravity, not layout, gravity. Gravity, and put it at the center so that everything moves to center, both vertically and horizontally, and you can see that. We're almost there. Now, we have the place to enter the amount in Kenya shillings. We have the place to click so that the conversion can take place, but we don't have a place to display the output. So I'll have another place here and call it a text view, which is where I will store the answer, the output. So I'll match parent again. I'll wrap content. And this one, because it's the output screen, it's more like a screen, I want it to be a bit bigger in terms of the size. So I write text, size, specify a slightly huge size compared to the other one. This can be 30 SP. We measure text in SP. And I can give it some default text so that I can just look at it and, but we will delete it because it doesn't look good on the screen. So some value like that. And now I look at how this will appear when the user is running this. That's okay, except that if we put this enter amount in Kenya shillings at the center, it will look better. Even this this output, if it appears at the center, it will look better. So we go back to the code, the output is here, and we look for a property called gravity. And now this is not center, it's just center horizontal. Horizontally, we need it at the center. You can check whether that is happening. If once you realize after doing this for some time, you don't even need to keep checking. Right, so we can do the same here for the label. That was gravity, center. And now I think we have a good appearance here. Well, let's run it and see what happens. We run it so that it appears on the emulator here. Remember all those changes we've made, we've not run this program on the emulator. So let's see what we find now. So you can now begin to see what happens as you write an Android application. First, determine the theme colors, the logos and all that. Assemble them. Then now go to the appearance, because you might not just have one layout. You will have many layouts. One for login, another one for maybe changing your password, another one for the main logic. First, prepare them as much as you can before you go to the Java code. So this is done loading. Let's look at it. Well, not very bad for the few minutes we've taken, but there are a few things we can do. Like the buttons would look very nice if it was green. So I'll note that down. And then let me see what happens when I put my cursor here, it brings everything on the keyboard, yet I know amount will never be in letters. Can I filter this keyboard so that I only see numbers? That's the other thing I need to do. So I now have two things to fix. Again, I don't like the way everything moves to the edge here. Can't we at least have some space on the ends here? So we now have three things to fix. Let's go back to the code. We said, let's have this edit text only bring up numbers. I don't need to remember everything, but I know that whatever I'm looking for is called input. So I start typing input in there. Let me delete this again, because when it populates itself, I will have all the different options that I need. So I'll just start typing input. Then select this, put the cursor here, and start typing the different types of inputs. A number, I'm looking for number that can have decimal points. This is it. Number with decimal points. We also said we want to change the color of this button to green. So I start typing background. And then I type art. The colors are under color, and I'm looking for dark primary. That's why I stored color green. If the button is green, I cannot use color black. It doesn't look good. So for the text color, I now can use white. You remember me defining white? I knew I would need it here. So I've fixed two of the three things I needed. Now let me fix the third one. The third one is I need some space here for all these controls. I can have that space on each of these controls, but that's a lot of coding. I can go out here to the outer container and specify that. And we use a property called margin. So I'll start typing. Margin is here. This should be on both the left and the right. So I'll type margin left 50 dp. Alright. You see it's underlining it, highlighting it with a lot of color yellow. It means there is something we need to do. And this is it. Anytime you use margin left, you also need to use margin start. Some fonts don't understand left, they understand start. And this just has to do with the Android versions. Now the other margin we need to do is on the right. I will use 50 dp. Again, when you use right, you also need to use what? End. End, margin, end. So there we go. We fixed a number of issues. And by the way, you notice all the texts are highlighted in some deep color here. Deep, this color. It is because we're actually not supposed to write text here. We're supposed to define text in another folder and then call them here. Look at what I will do here. And this is important when you want to convert your app into another language. You know, some of those applications that are multilingual. So I will, or you can use many languages. I'll copy this and go to values. Then here I'll go to strings. I want to create a string here. So I'll open tag, type string. Then what is the name of this string? I'll call it convert. This is not this this is not the string value, it's the string name. The value is here. This is what will appear when we call converter. So now I'll go back here and call it by saying it's at strings and the name of the string is convert. See, now that color clears. You can do that here. You can do that here. We don't have to do that. Now let's test all those few things that we've added. Our appearance is almost done. We should be going to Java code in a few minutes. Well, as that loads, we can be thinking through this code. So what will happen when this program is running? The user will enter some value here. We will click this button. The button will do some work, and the output of that work will be displayed here. What does that mean? It means these three controls will be needed within the Java code. We might not need this one because nothing is changing here, but these three, we will need to access them within the Java code. Therefore, for us to be able to access them within the Java code, we will need to give them another property known as ID. So I'll just start typing ID, then select that, plus ID. This one I'll call it Kenya shillings, because from it I will receive Kenya shillings. Okay, this one ID, convert, IDs plus, I call this button convert. It's where the action takes place actually. Right, then there is another text view here which we will use to display the output. So I'll select that and call it output. Sometimes you can, when the project is huge, you have so much to use, so you might need to use a bit more clear names for this. So the only reason why we are giving these ones names is because we will need to access them within the Java code. So here we have our output and it looks good. This value here 66266 was just to see how our application appears. So I actually don't need it there. We don't need to be displaying anything there when the application runs. Again, I realized this space here would look very nice if we had a logo. So let me add in a logo here before the string that says enter output here. Open tag, start typing image, and I have image view here. I want this to be like 150 dp, and this one 150 dp is also good. You can keep trying the values, whatever works will be the size that you retain. Now we need an image that we can use as a logo. I'll now go to my computer and look for an image. I had downloaded one, so I'll just go get it. It's here. I'll just get this image and now transfer it to Android Studio and paste it there. Then at runtime I can always access it. My computer is taking a minute. All right, should we come back there later? All right, I can go to that later. Oh, it's here. I just copy that. Then I'll now go to my drawable folder. Inside the resource folder, there's a folder called resource. I'll select that, then right click, paste. There you go. You have two folders where you can put it. I'll use version 24. Remember to always use that. Yeah, we can call it converter.png. Remember, this image can only be PNG or JPG. So now we have that, then we are good. So let's link this image view with that image. So we will use a property called src for source, image source. We know it's at drawable, and the name of the image is converter. Can we see it here? At drawable, converter. Even if you don't see it, just pick any of this and then change this name. You should pick it. Yeah, here you go. It was still loading. Oh, now our app should look good now. So let's look at it. You notice the space between the edit text and the button is too small. Maybe we should increase some space. So we can go to the button and tell it, button, we want some space on top of you. That means we use margin top. Margin top 100 dp. So now we have everything. The layout is okay. We can now go to Java code. We can leave the emulator running if we have anything to correct. Oh, it's already here. Looks good. We can now go to the Java code and put in some code there. Now, where is Java code? We close the resource folder, then we go to Java. You have 3 packages. We're only interested in what does not have the word test. So this one here. Can actually delete the others. So once we open this, you have main activity, and this is where our code will go. Now, first we will need to link those controls that we've declared within the XML right here. So first, let's declare them. So in XML, we have a button. So don't type everything, just start typing. When you get a suggestion, select that. That makes you move fast, and at the same time it imports the methods that you need. I'll call this button converter. From the XML, we only import what we will need to use here. Some of these things we will not need to use them within the code, like the image and this label, enter amount in Kenya shillings. But all the others, as I explained, the ones that we provided IDs for, we will need to use them here. So edit text. I'll call it input. We had called it Kenya shillings. The names don't have to be the same, you can use different names. Then the place where we are displaying our output, we called it, it's a text view. So text view. And we called it output. You don't need to use the same name, but if you can, using the same name helps you to be consistent. Right, now we have everything we need to get this job done. By default, now you have a Java class here. Let's explain. And inside the class, you can have many functions. Many functions. Currently, we only have one function called onCreate, and that's where most of the code goes. This line here is important. It tells the computer this is where we have the look and feel of our application. Go inside resource. Inside resource folder, these are here. Then inside another layout called inside another folder called layout, this folder here. Then get a file called main activity, this one here. So that's the meaning of this line here. And any code that links or tries to access the controls within the XML must come after this line. So now let's come here. In our code, we have a converter button. We need to link it with the one that is in the XML. So I'll write is equals to find view. We'll start typing find, and it says find view by ID. We select that. In other words, we are telling the computer, using an ID, retrieve this button. Which ID? You remember we gave these controls IDs. We gave these controls IDs because we will now use these IDs. So I'll start typing r.id. The ID that we use for a button here is converter. So we should use converter to link that button to this button. I think we used convert. Let me confirm, make sure there's consistency. We are done linking. Let me write here linking so that when you're revisiting this, you're able to relate. Linking, and you can see now it has changed the color from gray. Gray means the resource is not used. All right, the next one is edit text. Kenya shillings is equals to find view by ID. This is how we link r.id. We must have called it Kenya shillings. Yes. The next one we need to link is output. And output is actually a button. Is equals to find view by ID r.id. That's output. Let me see. Yes. So we are done linking. Now we can go into the working or execution. Let me call it execution. What do we need to do? When the button is clicked, we need whatever the user had entered here, we need it to be converted into dollars. Okay. So first we start by having this button listen to a click event. In Java, with all these controls, you need to tell them what to pay attention to. Is it a click? Is it a mouse over? All that. So now we have a button here, and we are interested in output. We are interested in having it pay attention to click event. So I'll start typing set and look for click listener. Set on. Is there anything like click listener? Set on click listener. Right. That's what we're interested in. Then we create a new instance of the click listener. So I'll tap new. Then start typing. Just as suggested on top here. On. Then when I get that, I'll just select on click listener and it's already here. I'll just select that. Give it a minute to retrieve the rest of the code. Because once you select what is suggested, then the rest of the code will be populated. So here we go. It tells me this is where you need to put the code which should be executed when this button is clicked. Most of the times I like to start, before I do a lot of work, I'd like to just display a short message using this toast make text. This is used to display just a short message, like just to confirm that everything is working. So look at what I will do. The first thing that is required for a toast is the context. What is context? Where we are. So I can just write main activity, this name here, this name here. So I write main activity dot this, that retrieves the context, and then the next thing is what I want to display. I'll just write working. I just want to confirm that so far everything is okay. Then there is one more property that we need to specify, and that is the duration of the toast. So I write toast dot okay, this seems to be interfering with this. Okay, I will start typing. It's length short. It should suggest. Right, let me looks like I needed to resize my string here. Just a minute, let me do away with the emulator here for a moment. We will display it later. All right, this seems to be Alright. Instead of doing all this, I will use 1. You don't have to use 1. 1 is also another way of telling the computer the duration. And then I will use a method called show to display this. So now I will run this. I will run this so that we see whether this appears on the emulate when we run the code. So when we click on the button, it will just display the message working, but it will not do the conversion. Then after that, we can go back to the code and do some conversion. Right, so it's loading. As it loads, we should be thinking of how we will actually go about it. So whatever the user types within the edit text called you realize here you use the wrong. Convert is the button, so this should actually be convert. This should actually be convert, not output. Output is the text view where we will display our code. So we need to make sure that there is consistency. So even if this runs, it will not be able to execute that. So we will still need to run it again with that change. Right, so let's run this again to apply that change. The convert is the button, as you can see here, and that's what we'll do the work when the button is clicked. So look at what will happen here as that loads on the other side. When we click on the button, we need to receive that text that was there. Whatever text that the user has entered, we will need to retrieve it. Let's first click on this, see whether it's running. And you can see it displays a message here. It's working. So now let's continue with the conversion. When we click on this button, we want it to get whatever is inside edit text called Kenya shillings. So look at what I will do. First, let's get whatever is inside there. Kenya shillings dot, look for a method that says get text. This method receives text, but we cannot work with text. We need to convert it to string. So the moment you put the dot, you'll see this method to string. So now we have converted that text to string. Remember, it's supposed to be money, and money is not a string. Money is a number that could have a decimal point. So now we need to convert all of this into a number with decimal point. A number with decimal point. We will call it double. So now look at what I will do to convert that. Double. I'll select double here. Dot. Look for a method called pass double right here. What does this mean? This method receives a string and returns a number, a double number. That is a number that is of type double. So that's the method we are looking for. And then we pass this string into it. Again, we retrieve the text that the user has entered. We convert it to string. Convert it to string. And then convert now this string to double. And once that is done, we will definitely need a place to store it. So I'll call it int amount. Sorry, not int. Remember, we have converted it to double, so this has to be double too. Double. Again, notice this is double uppercase, this is double lowercase. So we now have the amount. The next thing is to convert. We have, I could have written, maybe to make it clear, amount in Kenya shillings. That's the variable we will use. And now let's convert this to amount in US dollars. Amount USD is equals to. So here we will make some assumptions. To get amount in dollars, we will get amount in Kenya shillings and divide it by the current exchange rate is like 106 maybe. We can use that. You don't have to do this, but it's always a good practice to use the braces well. So now we have the amount in USD dollars. All we need to do is to display Where else we can display on the toast here just by putting plus, then amount in USD dollars. That's okay. The problem is the toast appears and disappears so fast. So it's better to use the text view that we are designed, because that will always be there and the user will not have to repeat the operation. If you use text view, it will just appear if you use toast, it will appear very fast, then disappear. Right, so look at what I will do. The text view that we are using to display the answer is called output. So output, then we look for a method called set text right here. And this one is ready to receive the output. So if we put this output here, it will be received. But remember, this one is expecting text, but we have double. The types are very important. So we can easily convert this to text by using this plus here and just add it here, amount. And we can just use USD here. That way, we don't need the toast now. It was just to test. So let me run this and we see what happens. Our emulator is here, ready to run the code. Now we should be finalizing after this. Okay. So when you click here, it shows this. You can use dot. And then you can click on the button. Then it says USD. All this is about to display the output here. Now let's remove this and click on this button and see what happens as we finish. Oh, our application just crashed. So the way we've designed this application, if the user clicks on the button without providing input, then we have a problem. So let's talk to the user, make sure this will never happen. Because if the code gets to these lines and tries to retrieve this is where the problem starts. If it tries to retrieve this value and there is nothing, then the program will crash. So let's have an if statement here. If, what is the name of the text where the user should enter text? It's called Kenya shillings. If this, we have a number of methods that we can use. If this dot length, if the length is equivalent to 0, meaning you've entered nothing, this program should not run. Else, it should not do the conversion. Else, that is, if there is something more than that, the length is more than 0, then we can do this work. So now we can use this toast here. Or let's just use the same output string where we are displaying the answer. We can actually use that as the place where we will tell the user specify amount in Kenya shillings. So if the user clicks on the conversion button without entering an amount, the application will tell them to specify amount first. So by so doing, just a very simple if statement, our program will not crash. Okay. We can just click without providing some number here and say enter amount first. If we enter the amount, it converts it to dollars. That's the end of this simple project.